Hi! Today I'm going to show you how to put together your t-shirt that from the pattern that we drafted together in class. So here I have my t-shirt pattern drafted from my favorite t-shirt. I have my front panel, which is cut on the fold. I have my back panel, which will also be cut along the fold of my fabric. And I have my sleeve. You also should have 3 pieces, unless you had a more complicated t-shirt, and we would have talked about that in class. I've already pre-cut my pieces. Here they are. For the front of my shirt, I've used a cotton jersey, just like a regular t-shirt material. I've gone ahead and cut this piece on the fold, so you can see when I open it up, I have my entire shirt front. For the back of my shirt, I've chosen to mix things up a little bit, and I've used a woven fabric instead of a knit. So this is a standard cotton quilting fabric, just like you buy at Fabricate. Because my fabrics are stretchy, it's okay to have one panel that's not a stretchy fabric. So I've chosen to use something a little bit different for the back. For the sleeves, I've also used a knit fabric. It's right here, and I've cut them so that I have 2 mirror images. You can see I've cut one with one side up and one side down. When I lay them side by side, you can see that they are mirror images of one another from my pattern piece, which is right here. Now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew it up. I'm using my 4-thread overlock serger to finish the raw edge of my sleeve along the bottom edge. But if you don't have a serger, you can use your straight sewing machine with a zigzag stitch set to 1/4 inch wide and a stitch length smaller than 1/2 the overall width of your length of your stitching. I'm going to go ahead and finish my raw edge right now with my serger. Here they are. Next step, I'm going to go ahead and press my my hem for my sleeves right over here on with my iron, and we're going to press it up like that, so when it comes time to hem my sleeves, it'll already be pre-measured and easy to do. I've drafted my pattern so that my sleeve hems are 3/4 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and fold up my sleeve hems 3/4 inch. I have a pretty good eye, but of course you can always use a ruler to measure this. So I'm using my iron and some steam. Knit fabrics really like when you use the steam on the iron to pre-press this, so when it comes time to stitch up my hems on my sleeves, it'll be a piece of cake. Finish the opening of the collar of your shirt, you'll likely want to use some cotton ribbing. I'm using this metallic cotton jersey. It's ribbed, so it has a very distinctive pattern of lines, and you can see it stretches and has a very strong return. This is what you'll usually find on the bottom of a sweatshirt, on the cuffs of a jersey, t-shirt, that kind of a thing. You can buy it in the fabric store, and it comes in lots of different colors. You can see here I have a piece in black. I'm going to use this silver. What you'll want to do is lay your ribbing out flat on your table, and I've already marked this. You'll want to mark a 2-inch wide strip so that the ribbing is running perpendicular to the strip itself. I've used my quilter square to get a perfectly square edge, and I've marked a 2-inch wide band here. I've already cut my band, and here it is. I like to prep my pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and iron this piece in half right now so that it's ready to go when it's time to install it into the collar. I'm just taking my steam iron again, and I'm pressing so the raw edges match. So I'll end up with a strip folded over is 1 inch wide. Because we're going to use 1/4 inch seam allowances for everything, My ribbing around my neck will end up as 3/4 of an inch around the opening of the neck and the neck hole. Okay, so we're back at our serger now, or at your straight sewer if you're doing an overlock stitch. I'm going to take my front fabric. I'm going to make sure I have the right side facing the right side facing, which is this side, face to face with the back panel, which is right here. Like I said, I've used a woven fabric, so I'm going to make sure I have the right side facing the right side of my shirt. And we're going to connect the shoulder seams. So we're going to line the shoulder seams up, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and serge these, or you can use your straight sewing machine with your overlock stitch. That's one. Let's do the other. Okay. So here I have one shoulder connected, but not the second shoulder. Before we connect the second shoulder, we're going to go ahead and install the ribbing into the neck opening from the back of the shirt all the way around to the front. Once it's installed, we'll then go ahead and attach the shoulders together at the shoulder seam. I've cut my ribbing strip extra long so that I don't need to worry about exact length right now. I'll go ahead and install it, and I'll cut it off once I have it ready to be the shoulder to be closed up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the ribbing into the collar of the shirt. I have the right sides facing me, and I'm going to take my ribbing, which is right here, and I'm going to put the raw edges to each other, touching. I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch overlapping across my shoulders. This is the shoulder of my back panel. You can see it's unattached to the front currently. I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch of my ribbing hanging over. Now the trick with ribbing, when you install ribbing, is you want to make sure you give it a little bit of a pull, not too much, but just enough so that it has enough spring back to return so it won't be gapey at the neck. I'm going to use my serger, but again, you can use your regular sewing machine with an overlock stitch. 1/4 inch wide, less than half the stitch length of a normal stitch. Again, I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug, not too much. I don't want it to buckle the fabric itself, just enough to have the ribbing stretch back a little bit. As I approach the end here, I'm reminded to tell you 2 important tips when sewing jersey. Number 1 is, I said we want to stretch the ribbing slightly as we go through the machine. It's important to not stretch your flat fabric when you're sewing cotton jersey. Doing so will just cause it to ripple or lettuce edge. I am stretching the jersey slightly as I approach the serger, simply so that the edge of the jersey that is on the inside of the collar is able to stretch back a little bit and not be rippled around the neckline. The other tip that I have for you for sewing jersey is always use a ballpoint needle. A ballpoint needle is a specialty needle that can be bought in any fabric store, and on a microscopic level, the tip of the needle is rounded. This allows the needle to pass easily through the holes in the fibers, as opposed to splitting them apart. By doing that, the jersey won't ripple or pucker. Sometimes those double-pointed needles are also called jersey needles or stretch needles. You can see here my ribbing strip was much longer than I needed. So now that I'm finished attaching it, I'll go ahead and cut it off. Just right near close to my edge of my shoulder. Here you can see that I've attached the ribbing all the way around from my shoulder to shoulder seam, and you can start to see how it's beginning to look like a t-shirt now. I'm going to go ahead now and attach my other open shoulder with right sides together, and I'm going to be sure to align the place where the jersey meets the fabric, right there. If you're using your straight sewer at this point, you'll want to go ahead and cut the jersey flush with your fabric. Since I'm using the serger, it'll cut it off for me, so I don't need to do that. Again, don't forget, don't stretch your jersey. Here's our shirt. It's now almost starting to look like a t-shirt. Next up, let's put the sleeves on. Sleeves are a little bit complicated because, as you can see, they have a bell curve across the top of the sleeve. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my sleeve, which is the underarm seam. I'm going to find the underarm matching spot on my t-shirt. You can see here's my sleeve opening right there. So I'm going to go right sides together, edge to edge, and place it right along the back of my t-shirt to start. I'm not going to stretch my jersey, and I'm going to connect these using my serger. As I get to the middle of the top of my sleeve, the crown of the sleeve, it should match up perfectly with the seam of my two front panel and back panel coming together. I'm aligning these as I go. I'm not using any pins. There it is, the first sleeve. Let's go ahead and do the same exact thing on the other side. Okay, here we go. Two sleeves. Now let's sew up the side seams. So turn the whole t-shirt inside out so you have right sides together. Let's always do our right sides together. I like to start at the bottom or the hemline of my shirt, matching them up, right sides together, and we're going to serge that side seam. As I approach the armpit, I'm going to make sure that my armpit seams on the front and the back match up. You can see here, because I'm sewing one side jersey and one side woven, my jersey is gaping a little bit. I'm going to try to make sure that I don't let that pucker, but kind of ease in the fullness that I have between the two different fabrics. This is just a result of using one woven and one knit fabric. If you're using two jerseys together, you shouldn't really have this problem. Okay, there it is, one side seam done. I managed to connect my jersey and my woven fabric with no puckers all along the seam, matching up in the armpit and at the finished edge of my sleeve. Okay, let's go ahead and finish the bottom edge of our shirt. While it's open and flat, I like to finish it now, as opposed to waiting until it's a big loop. It's a little bit easier on the serger and on the straight sewing machine. So while this is unconnected on one side, I'll go ahead and just put a serged edge along the bottom. The nice thing about jersey is it won't fray. So if you don't have a serger or you don't want to finish it on the overlock machine, you can just leave the raw edge of your jersey just cut and raw. You don't even need to hem it up. Although you can hem it, and you can hem it without finishing that edge. That raw edge of the jersey will never fray, so you don't need to worry about it. Let's take it to the iron and pre-fold that hem, just like we did on the sleeves. That way, once we do the next side seam, we'll just need to hem the bottom and the sleeves, and it'll be finished and ready to wear. So on the bottom, I left a 3/4 inch hem as well. You will have drafted your pattern to be whatever hem you want. I like 3/4 or 1 inch is always a nice amount. But feel free to hem it as much as you feel like. That's our front half. Here's our back half. Some of you might be wondering what this is on my iron. This is a new thing that I just got. It's called an iron apron. It's a Teflon covering for my iron, because lots of times these fabrics have a sizing or a residue on them that when I use them straight with my iron and I haven't pre-washed, it leaves a residue on my iron and sticky mess. This Teflon coating has been really nice to keep the iron clean. Let's go back to the serger. Here we are back at the serger. We have everything pre-pressed. We're going to go ahead and finish the second side seam. You can see I'm aligning the edge of my sleeve right here, as well as the seam. If it's slightly misaligned, I like to pick the middle ground. You can see mine's a little bit short on this side, so that's okay if it doesn't match up perfectly. Here's our shirt, almost ready to wear it. All we have to do now is hem the sleeves and the bottom, and let's put it on. So I'm going to go to my straight sewing machine now, which is right here. For my sleeves, I like to use my free arm. On many new sewing machines, you'll find that this piece just removes slightly, easily, it slides right off. By having the free arm, if I take my t-shirt and I'll turn it inside out, I'm going to fold up the sleeve right along the fold line that we pre-pressed at the beginning of this lesson. You can see there it is, all ready to go. I like to start at my underarm seam, which is right under here. And by putting it onto the free arm, I won't accidentally sew the sleeve together. And it'll make it easy to sew all the way around that opening without any problems. Be sure to back tack when you start. Finish with a back tack too. There's one finished seam. It'll look a lot better once we press it. Let's do the other one first. Okay, that finishes up the second sleeve. Now let's do the exact same thing on the bottom of the shirt to finish the hem. Still working from the outside of the shirt. Here's my hemline that I pre-pressed. Again, I like to start on the side seam just because it makes the back tack a little less noticeable and starting right in the center of one of your panels. So starting on the side seam, I'll start with the back tack, and now I'm going to work all the way around my hem until I get back to where I started. Starting to look like a t-shirt now. Okay, so before we go ahead and press this and be finished with it, I want to show you how to finish the serge at the neckline. This is where we finished the ribbing with the serge, came across, and I left this long piece of serge behind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, this is an upholstery needle, but you can use an embroidery needle or any needle with a large eye. What I do is I put the needle into my serge here, just like that. Because this needle is so long, I have to do it this way. If you had a shorter needle, you could just thread the needle with the serge, which is what I'm doing now, and then pull the serge right through itself, just like this. This is a nice way to finish your serge so that it won't come undone. Back at the iron, before we put it on, I like to press it really nice so that it's perfect. So when we try it on, it'll look extra professional and ready. So using the steam, I press the side seams, the hem, the sleeves, make everything nice and smooth and flat. See all this wrinkling? Don't worry if you get any of that, because watch this. The steam iron and the jersey work nicely together. All the way around the hemline. Now, let's do the collar and the sleeves. I press the serge flat, and definitely want to use your steam along your ribbing. That'll help your ribbing to relax and recoil back on the smaller edge of the opening. There's my neckline. Press the hems down on your sleeves. There it is. Now let's try it on. There it is. Look at the back. I've used 3 different fabrics and a contrasting ribbing on this shirt. Try different things. Mix it up. You're not buying this shirt. You're making it from scratch. Make it your own. Make it special.